Ladies and gentlemen, the countdown is on. 14 days until puck drop. Therefore, we had to insist on the former NHL sniper, TSN Hockey analyst, and co-host of Overdrive on TSN 1050 in Toronto, Jeff O'Neill, joining us today. Always great to see you. First of all, buddy, how was your summer? How was your summer this year?
You know what? It was very good. It was very peaceful as well, Jay. I played a lot of golf, did a little vacationing with my wife. So the summer's over. It's just like playing. It's back to business,
Exactly.
as they say, buddy. Good to be back.
Do you train a little bit in the summertime more mentally to prepare yourself for those 3-hour grueling radio shows?
I think you caught yourself. You brought up the word train, and then you looked at me, and then you said, well, not that train. So then you had to throw in the mentally. You had to throw in the mentally train. But no, I think I talked to Hayes enough and Noodles. It's like, you know, hockey guys and sports guys. It's always, you know, a 2-minute phone call, what it's supposed to be about. Did you see that? Turns into a 25-minute conversation. So there's that kind of mental training, but I think you know by now that I don't prep for it, I don't train for it, I just let her fly.
And that's why we get along so well, because that's our philosophy here as well. And Jeff, the Leafs opened the preseason with back-to-back losses to the Senators. Who cares, right? But the Sens look like they're going to be a good team this year. They've shored up their goaltending position. They hopefully get Shane Pinto signed. They look decent. The Leafs have bulked up. They're a little nastier, a little more snot, as Tree Living said. Do you think this rivalry is truly back, Jeff? Do you think the Battle of Ontario is back? Because, boy, we've desperately missed it, haven't we?
I have certainly missed it. I remember back in the day playing and turning on the tube and watching Darcy Tucker jump in the Ottawa Senators bench and wanting to kill everybody, and Ty Domi running around. Those were great games, and the Battle of Ontario was really a thing. And for whatever reason, the Leafs took some time off disappearing from the battle, and then Ottawa had their struggles. But I think they're both going to be very good teams this year. Ottawa, it's, you know, they got to have some health and guys stay healthy. Chychrun, Pinto, their goaltending's got to hold up. But if you talk about an organization and the general manager, you got to give props to Pierre Dorion. It's like, okay, guys, I've said what needs to be said, and I put the pieces in place. You guys got to go out and play now. Like some of the young players, I don't think they're going to get the young guy benefit. A lot of them are being paid. I know they got to sort out the Pinto situation, Jay, because he's a really good player.
Yep.
They have to get him into camp before the season starts. It can't be Shane Pinto, where is he going to be 2 weeks into the regular season? Because in the last 3 or 4 years, they've had terrible starts.
Yep.
So he's got to get there and get some reps in and be ready to play. As for the Maple Leafs, it's going to be a different look and a different vibe. I think in past seasons, sometimes you go into Toronto and it's kind of easy to, you know, if you catch them on an off night, it's kind of like, well, there's your 2 points and maybe we're going to go away quietly. You see the good teams like Vegas and the Boston Bruins last year. If they're going to beat you, and you can think and say what you want about this idea, but a lot of good teams, they kind of take a chunk out of you on the way out the door. They're going to say, you can take the 2 points, but you can take that along the way. And the Leafs have never really been like that. And I think Ryan Reeves is going to be, you know, Brian Hayes has talked about it a lot. It's going to be an entertaining thing in Toronto. I think Toronto has always appreciated that role, the toughest guy in the league with so many years with Ty Domi. So it's definitely going to be a different vibe down at that rink.
I want to talk to you about Steven Stamkos. I was curious if you were as surprised as I was when he went public with his... he was dissatisfied with the fact that the team hasn't even engaged him in contract talks. And at first when I heard it, I thought, well, that's a weird thing. And then I'm looking at his stats, Jeff, and I'm like, this guy's still producing at an incredible clip. He's only 33 years old, and you don't even engage him even out of respect. Am I missing something here from Julien Brisebois in Tampa?
And from the player's point of view, and that's the only one I can speak from, Jay, not the general managers. I know a lot of the GMs, and I talk to them, but I don't know what they think about this situation, especially Brisebois. But if I'm Steven Stamkos, and the disrespect comes into play, where so many players around the league And Hagel comes to town from Chicago, and he just magically has to sign a a 6-year deal at, I believe, $6 million, and it might be longer. I'm not 100% certain. And Steven Stamkos, who's worn the C, he's been a massive part of their Stanley Cup championships, and he's just been the guy there for a long time. And if it's true that there wasn't even a phone call in place, that would tick me off too. At least have the decency to say, you know what, it's probably going to go in a different direction, so I wouldn't expect anything as far as a contract offer. Just kind of keep him in the loop. For a guy that's performed as well as he has, even at the age he's at, which he's not that old, and I think he's one of those guys where he could possibly lose a step, but he's still going to be a great player and a point producer for them if they want to keep him in the fold. But I did find that kind of weird.
The dust is finally starting to settle in Columbus after the Paul Bissonnette takedown of Mike Babcock. Fascinating stuff. I know you've talked a lot about it. And then, of course, the Kevin Constantine suspension in the Western Hockey League. It's a different era. I mean, compared to when you played, Jeff, could you imagine these types of incidents even being exposed publicly when you played? Is this just a different era that players feel more emboldened, that they have actually a platform that they can speak out on to maybe voice their displeasure about things that they're unhappy with the coaches?
You know what, Jay? I'm glad they do, and I'm glad things have changed in that way where players, they feel confident enough and have enough jam to go to somebody and say, this is not right, because that's what we're talking about, situations where there's nonsense going on. And it's one thing for a coach. All the coaches I played for, whether it be Paul Maurice or Peter Laviolette or Pat Quinn, all demanding coaches. And I know the current coach in Carolina, Roddy Brindamore, is a demanding coach, but he would never, none of those gentlemen I just mentioned would never, ever, ever get involved in such nonsense. And it's one thing, you get paid a lot of money, and there's expectations, and there's a lot of pressure. Playing in the big leagues, playing in the show, it's not easy. It's a mental grind, and you got to go there to play. But to have that nonsense going on behind the scenes, I'm glad people step up, and I'm glad people don't have to deal with it, because who in the heck would want to go to work, because it is a job, and deal with that crap? I wouldn't, and I'm glad guys are stepping up to stop it.
Well said, sir. Let's lighten things up a little bit, because you and I have a mutual favorite out in Winnipeg, and I'd like to take a moment for appreciation. How excited are you, Jeff O'Neill, that Adam Lowry is the new captain of the Winnipeg Jets?
I am so fired up because he's our favorite player in the National Hockey League, and I think we should place a call to our old friend Sarah Orlesky to see if she can get us Winnipeg Jets t-shirts with Lowry on the back and his number in the C on the front.
I love this idea because he deserves to wear the C. He's always willing to throw him. He'll stick up for his teammates. He'll fight guys above his weight class. I just love when a captaincy goes to a guy like this, Jeff, in general, you know?
Yeah, he's a great player for them. We've been talking about him for years, how well-rounded he is. And if you want to talk about a captain, because let's be honest, the captain is usually the guy that gets 120 points, and he always has to just stick his nose in there and talk to the refs and act like a cool guy. But this guy is the true captain. Plays in all situations, plays tough, scores big goals. He has to fight somebody, he does it. I love the decision by Winnipeg to make him the captain. I like Mark Scheifele too, but this is a great selection. And if we get the t-shirts, Jay, we'll do our next hit in the t-shirts.
Orlesky, you got to be watching. I know you're watching. You don't work for the network anymore, but you work for the Jets. We want those Lowry tees for our next segment. I feel like Sarah will come through for us big time, Jeff. There's no way she won't. She likes us.
I hope so, pal.
Let's switch gears. One last question for you. We saw the sports and entertainment world collide on Sunday night. Taylor Swift, biggest pop star on the planet, shows up at the Bears-Chiefs game sitting next to Donna Kelsey. Travis scores a touchdown. Taylor goes bananas. Oh, Doug, this is my question for you. I'm happy for them, but is this relationship worth the trouble for Travis Kelsey? I'm more concerned about him.
I just find it hard to understand how it could ever be a normal relationship where she's being escorted out of a football stadium in a popcorn machine, and she can't be seen, or she causes riots. Like, that's a tough gig. As cool and as much money as she has and as awesome as she is, that would be a difficult scene every time you leave your house. Travis Kelce, I'm glad he had the stones to send the message and say, hey, do you want to come to the stadium? I did not really like, I wasn't really down with the jean jacket he was wearing. I don't know. Everyone's got a different opinion about that. I wasn't a fan of it, but he's a big-time star, but she's a megastar. I don't know how it ever works. Jay, you know these things. They never work out. It always comes crashing down, and it's on TMZ, and then it becomes a mess.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm just worried about him. I know he's got his Super Bowl rings and everything, but I'm worried about him getting swallowed up by the machine. But he'll probably be okay. It reminds me a little bit of back in the day when Ron Greschner and Carol Alt got married, O-Dog. It was such a spectacle for Greschner. And that didn't work out, and now she's with Yashin.
I was going to say, how long did that last?
Exactly. That love didn't last either. Hopefully her and the Yash are still going strong. Buddy, great chat with you. Enjoy the rest of the season, and we'll talk to you when we get those T-shirts, all right?